Wildlife.
Hello, welcome to the Wild Review. I'm the Wild Review, and welcome back to another edition of Lost and Found. I'm gonna put the air on because it's very hot in here. This is the segment where I touch upon shows that are lost within piles of media, either because they've been forgotten or they just weren't that good to be remembered by. Today, I'm going to do some cheating, because I'm not talking about a television show at all. In fact, I don't believe this show hit television. It definitely was a series for children, except rather than being broadcast on television, it was broadcasted in the form of VHS tapes. That's right, folks, we're going to talk about some home videos. Kids today will never understand the glory we had with VHS tapes. And yes, compared to DVDs, they were annoying. You had to put the VHS in the VCR, and if you were at a certain spot that you didn't want to be at, you had to rewind the tape, possibly rewind it all the way to the beginning. Yeah, there are some aspects that can be very annoying, but the second you think of VHS, nostalgia just hits your head. I had so many VHS tapes, in fact I still have a few, not of the shows I used to watch, those are all on DVD now, but VHS tapes were kinda cool. Contradicting it, I would say, maybe, because I just said they're a bit annoying, but they're also pretty cool. This series, I don't think ever made its way to DVDs. In fact, I don't even think you can find this series anywhere unless you look it up on YouTube. I'm pretty sure they only distribute this series on home video cassette tapes. Oh, what's that? What is it? Oh, it's the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald. Yeah, I bet you never heard of that, have you? Something else that the kids these days are missing out on is Ronald McDonald. Everyone should know who Ronald McDonald is. He's the mascot of McDonald's. The jumpy red-headed and white-faced clown with the big yellow jumper suit as he pranced around everywhere, eating Big Macs and French fries and promoting his fast food everywhere that he went. That's all pretty cool, but I bet you didn't know he had his own animated series. Yeah, if you look up old nostalgic McDonald's commercials from the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, and possibly even the early 2000s, most of them will contain Ronald McDonald and his friends from McDonaldland. Then somebody at an animated studio said, hey, let's give these characters their own animated series, except let's not put it on television. I actually don't know why it was never put on television, and instead put them on home VHS tapes, so this way the kids can buy them and bring them home, so this way we can influence them to eat McDonald's. Well, it didn't really influence me that much. The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald focused on stories about Ronald and his friends in McDonaldland. They went on all types of adventures, such as going into space and camping and time travel and meeting the Loch Ness Monster. But the one that I mostly remember, because yes, I did have one of these home videos when I was a kid, was The Legend of Grimace Island. It was a pirate adventure. All the characters set out to look for buried treasure on a pirate ship, and I don't remember any singing in the episode, but there was singing.
There's nothing like the great outdoors, and the far-flung forest is the best, of course. If you want to get close to the greenery, the camping in the wild is the place to be.
The Mandela effect hit me very hard with this video cassette series, because a lot of things I remember very differently. Like, I remember Sunday not being so creepy in his puppet version. I also remember Ronald McDonald's hair not being all spiky in the animated version, even though in real life his hair was curly. Yeah, to elaborate on that a little, each VHS tape would start off with a live segment of Ronald and his dog Sunday, who was never in the commercials. He was just added for this video series. Oh my god! Look, I'm not saying he's ugly, but the dog is kind of creepy a little. The live-action segments would always connect with what's actually going to be happening within the story. You'd see them in the beginning, transition into McDonaldland, where Ronald and his dog would jump in a ball pit, a really cool ball pit that would influence me to go into a ball pit, and play around in the McDonald's playpen. And that would transition into the animated world, McDonaldland, and then we would see, after their adventure, back in the live-action segment, where they kind of resolve everything. Something I always found a bit odd, though, is that most of the time in the beginning of the episode, when it's the live-action segment, any of the other McDonaldland characters, whenever they would show up on the screen in the live-action segment, they would always be CGI. I mean, I guess that makes a little sense, seeing that the characters are supposed to be animated, and in our world they're going to be CGI characters, but if Sunday's a puppet, then why wouldn't you make the other characters puppets? More or less, why wouldn't you just keep them as 2D animation characters, seeing that we're watching them on a screen? I mean, I'm not complaining that much. I think the CGI is fine, seeing that whatever's in the real world should be real world things and not cartoons, but now thinking about it a few years later, it does make me question why they just didn't stick to 2D animation on the screens. These videotapes ran from 1998 all the way to 2003. There were only 6 actually made. I don't know exactly why they stopped making them. Oh wait, I can kind of guess. Nah, I'm just kidding around with that. I don't know if those Happy Meal creatures were the reason why. I guess because they just didn't want to make any more. That's alright, you know. I remember when I first remembered this series only a few years ago, I went back to check out some old clips of it because I just wanted to have the nostalgic feel come to me, and I always found one specific episode, or in this case, a home video, very odd. There was one adventure that focused on Birthday World, but the theme song to it and the opening was very different from the others that we've seen with Ronald and Sunday in the house. As a matter of fact, Sunday wasn't even in this opening, it was only Ronald, and the house was completely different. I later learned that the 4th video is where things started to change a little. Sunday was taken out of the live action segments, I wonder why, and put into the animation segments, and Ronald's house just changed for some reason. I don't know, the first house looked very house-like. This one just looks like a studio set. You're not convincing me that this is his house if he's got all this open space. At least show me his bed! Another thing I never noticed about this when I was little was I never realized that this was animated by... It's the same company that makes Rugrats and later All That, The Wild Thornberrys, Rocket Power, and Real Monsters. I'm pretty sure they also made As Told by Ginger, but that wasn't on the list. I'm pretty sure it is though, it's very similar looking animation style. I was very surprised, but at the same time I kinda wasn't. Because looking at it, the character design and animation is very similar to Rugrats. Also the background music and little extra sound effects are very similar to stuff you would hear in Rugrats. But that's just a cool little fun fact if you just didn't know that or you're slow like me. This is a series I could definitely say deserves to have the title of being lost, because I highly doubt anybody remembers these, unless you collected like all 6 of them. The fact that this didn't even make it on TV told you that it wasn't going to be a television series. I don't really know why the main purpose of these videos were made. Maybe it was like a marketing plan for kids to watch these shows and then go and get McDonald's, because at the end of every video, Ronald would always say,
This is your very own clown, Ronald McDonald. Hoping I'll see you next time, live and in person at McDonald's.
The only one I owned was the pirate episode, like I said before, but I have gone back and watched some other episodes, like the space one and the, the camping one? Yeah. No, I never saw the Loch Ness Monster one. So I've seen 3 out of the 6 of them, and especially watching it recently, I've gotten the vibe that it is a very odd show. Not just with the character designs, but just the whole aspect of it all together. Don't get me wrong, I like the whole transition with Ronald and his dog jumping into a ball pit and going to McDonald Land, but that leaves me the question, if they're going into McDonald Land, where are they supposed to be living? There's a giant McDonald's house just in this little town. Isn't that McDonald Land? Also, is Ronald McDonald the mayor of McDonald Land because his last name's McDonald? All these different questions, they hurt my mind. It's kind of a shame because there is a little entertainment value with these McDonald's videos, but at the same time, they can come off as very confusing. Some things don't make sense. There are these random musical numbers that just come out of nowhere. I'm not going to say the adventures were very pointless because, you know, they're the typical adventures you would expect characters to go to. You know, with camping and going into space and a treasure hunt, those are the typical stuff. I couldn't find any information on why these videos were made. I couldn't find the reasons why they stopped. There's really nothing else for me to say about this topic, mostly because there really isn't anything else to talk about with them. Like, all the information I found about the wacky adventures of Ronald McDonald, it's like everything's kept secret about it. So either somebody needs to come out and give more information about why this series was a thing, or I just didn't do a very good job looking stuff up. It's probably the second one. So that's my little talk about the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald. Overall, I thought it was a pretty cool series looking back at it. It was definitely some part of my childhood, even though I only owned one of the VHS tapes. Sunday is still a very creepy looking puppet. I'm very glad they never did a Rugrats puppet episode, because I'm sure that would have probably been horrifying. Now I want to hear what all of you people think. Have you ever seen the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald? If not, do you think you want to look it up and see what this is about? Because there are episodes on YouTube. I highly doubt you're going to find the VHS tapes, because nobody really has VHS tapes anymore. Do you agree, disagree, or think that I said in this video? Let me know all your feelings in the comments below. I know the question most of you are probably going to think, probably not, because I'm setting this little gag up. Does this series make somebody influenced to get McDonald's? Well, I could definitely answer that question. No. Wow, that was something. Thanks for checking out the video. Make sure if you like it, you give this video a like. And come back next week, because this time I'll actually get back on track and talk about a series that was on TV. Hey, that's pretty cool. I'm going to be talking about a Disney/Muppet hybrid series that I know for a fact a lot of people want to forget about, because it's not very good. It's kind of not.
Wild like